Hi, I'm Kalila McCoy, and this is the show that helps build communities. This is Where We Rise. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Where We Rise. I am excited for you to hear my conversation with Chelsea Thomas. We actually recorded this episode back in January, so you're going to hear us start the conversation laughing and talking about the weather, but I promise that's not the focus, and we will get back on track. Chelsea is a military wife who founded her own nonprofit to support other families in similar living situations. Now, I knew, like most of you, that the life of a military spouse or family comes with its own set of challenges, but I had never heard of geo-baching before I met Chelsea. So, listen in, get to know Chelsea, and learn how geo-baching changed her life in more ways than one. Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited that you're here today. We kind of just went through this before, but Chelsea and I are getting to know each other before we kind of jump into the podcast. And we already found out we have a small thing in common. Her mom is from the same city that I grew up in. So that's kind of exciting to already make a small connection with somebody. And Chelsea is in Florida. So it's snowing here today, and it's very cold. It says it's 22, but it feels like 11. So what's it like in Florida?
Oh my gosh, I think it's 80 out right now.
Oh my
And
gosh, I'm
so
so jealous.
I have like all my fans on because I was so hot earlier in my house. And
So I
I
have the
like
heat on.
refused
I got a
to,
flannel on, and she's got in
oh
this
my gosh.
t-shirt.
I'm like, yeah, t-shirt and shorts. So I was like, I can't. And I was supposed to take down Christmas decorations today, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a hard pass. I was like, it is just too hot for
Too
that.
hot. Yeah. See, we're the opposite. And everybody in Ohio was like, it's too cold. I'll leave them up another day or so. It's supposed to get
Ugh,
cold this week. And I
ugh,
love warm weather and the sunshine. So I wish I was where
yeah.
you were instead of here. But oh well.
Yeah. And we're supposed to have like cooler weather this weekend, so we're all really excited for like 50 and 60 degrees.
Oh, excited for it.
Look at us in our winter snap.
That it would be that would be a heat wave right now for us.
My
So
gosh, no way. We're all gonna have like our parkas and flannels and heat. All the things will be on for us.
yeah, in Ohio they'll be like shorts and t-shirts. It's finally
Mm,
50.
nope, not here.
Yeah, I love that. Just how different the weather is. Like, we get a few inches of snow and we're like, oh, truck through it, get your snow boots.
hmm
And other places are like, shut down. What's happening?
Oh yeah. Where my husband lives, which I'm sure we'll touch on this later, but where my husband lives, if it even flurries in the
Uh-huh.
air, the whole city will shut down. Schools are
Oh
closed,
my
like the whole
gosh.
thing. Yeah. They cannot handle anything.
Yeah. So I like that you said like where your husband lives because that's what we're going to be talking about today. So tell us a little bit about yourself and you and your husband living in different places.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Chelsea, and I'm a mom of four kids and three dogs. So we apparently
Wow.
really like chaos.
Yes.
And I am a military spouse, and my husband is in the Air Force. And we've been together for several years, and I was kind of, we were living together, we were going through deployments, we were going through short-term trips, and then all of a sudden it came up to him, it was his time to move. And we knew from the very beginning, because I have kids from a previous marriage, and so does he,
hmm
that we were not going to be able to move together just due to our kids' situation. So we knew about this for a long time, but then the time actually came. And so my husband, for the last 4 years, has been living in Mississippi, and I
Mm.
live in Florida. And
Wow.
so it has been quite the journey, to say the least, not just for me, but for the kids too, just adjustments
Right.
and everything that comes with it. Um, but yeah, so, we're going into year four this year, in 2026, and Lord help us.
Yeah, that's a long time. Now you
hmm
said that you knew it was a possibility. So is it the branch that he's in or his job that's a possibility?
So it's more so his job. I guess it's a branch and job combo
Okay.
of the two. So he's a pilot. And so with that, they rotate bases roughly every 3 to 4 years on a good time frame. Some are shorter, some
Okay.
can be a little bit longer, but on average, it's about 3 to 4 years that you're stationed in one location. And
Mm-hmm.
so we had those, through, I think he was in Florida for maybe 4 years
Okay.
before he had to move. But when you're with those together those 4 years, you're including deployments, which, are anywhere between 4 and 6 months. You're including these like short-term trips. So we actually looked at the data of it,
Mm-hmm.
and with him moving to Mississippi and us living apart, if I were to go up even once a month to go see him for a week, I would see him more while we lived states apart than I did when we were both living in Florida, just because of like the job that he was doing
Oh my
in
goodness.
Florida versus Mississippi. Yeah, so I've actually seen him more the last 4 years than I think I would have if he stayed in Florida. So
Okay.
it's
That's
obnoxious.
interesting. I would never have thought of that being
Yeah,
a fact.
they like tell him at the end, like, you were gone this many days, you were home this many days, you deployed for this many days. And so
Okay.
he added it all up and was like, oh my God, this is depressing. I think he was
Yeah.
gone for 8 months of the year when he lived in Florida. And now he's never gone in Mississippi. I mean, he's gone in the sense of he's not in Florida, but from his job and from our home in Mississippi, he's never really gone.
Now you said every about 3 to 4 years it changes. So this is year four. Is there news yet? Do you guys know, is he moving somewhere else?
So hopefully he'll be moving back home, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
However, with the military, you as a spouse, you kind of learn to not hold your breath with it. So
Okay.
we were told he could be home between like March and May, and we were super of 2026. And we were
Okay.
super excited, and then it turned into June, and then it turned into
Um,
November. And so it's like, yes, he might be home. He's coming home at some point in the next year or so. So it's just kind of a
and it's
matter of
guaranteed like it will be Florida. It's not somewhere.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were really excited because those odds are so, so slim. But I think
Yeah.
that leadership really took into consideration our position of it's called geo-batching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where your military spouse and family don't live together for an extended amount of time that is not what is called a TDY, which is typically a short-term trip, or a
Okay.
deployment. Those are very separated from geo-batching. Um, and so I think that the leadership was like, "Hey, you've done 4 years apart from your family. We'll try to get you
Try to
back
get
at
you
least
back
down in Florida was our goal, but at least he's coming home. The last we heard was he was coming home, so not even just in the state, he'll be home.
with you
So we're
guys. That's
pumped.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
hmm
you said too, geo-batching versus deployment. Tell us the difference between those two.
Yeah, so this is a really great. I love when people ask me this question because I think that geobatching and deployments, and like I said, TDYs and short-term trips, and short-term school stints, they all get kind of like lumped into one, and they're
Right.
so different. So in terms of deployment, which a lot of what geobatching is compared to,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very different. So when you are a military family and your spouse deploys, you are tied to the base that they are with, and typically you're living there with them. So
Okay.
when my husband would deploy, he would deploy from Florida, and I had a group of other spouses who were all in the same boat as me. Every spouse was deployed. We all were solo parenting for the 4 to 6 months, however long it was going to be.
Okay.
We did, we had a big community. So we would get together so that our kids could play and we could catch up and just kind of have like a breath of fresh air so that we weren't doing this alone. Or, during deployments, there's scholarship opportunities for your kids so that you can apply for funding to put them in an after school care program,
Mm-hmm.
which will help you as the parent, obviously, have a
Right.
little bit more time, whether you're working or staying home or whatever. So you have scholarship opportunities. And then you have things like free childcare nights at your base if your
That's
spouse
great.
is deployed, which is
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Like I used all three of those when my husband would deploy, and they were awesome services. And then they come home, and everybody comes home at once, the whole squadron, the whole platoon, depending on what branch you're in. They
Mm-hmm.
all come home basically at the same time, and it's this beautiful reunification and all those like really fun military reuniting photos and videos you see
Yes. I
online.
love those.
Yeah, so we have lots of those, and so then you kind of go back to normal life, and it's wonderful. And you've built these relationships and the bonds with these other spouses who just went
Mm-hmm.
through this like terrible deployment. Geo-baching is so vastly different. It
Okay.
is wild. So when you're geobaching, I am no longer tied to the Florida base that I live next to. I have no support. I have no resources. I can go on base and do my shopping and things like that. But in terms of childcare, I don't have any more free nights. I
Mm.
don't have opportunities for scholarships for my kids for after school. If I'm about to go through a hurricane, I have no support to help me with that. I have to do it all by myself or try to figure out how to get my
Wow.
husband home type of situation because I am tied to the base that he is at in Mississippi. So they call them key spouses
Oh,
or spouse liaisons. My go-to people are all in Mississippi. I don't have anyone here. So although
that's
I have a really,
interesting.
yeah, and so that's like one of the big things that I don't think people really realize is that I don't have the support of the giant military base that I'm next to. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the resources that are offered during a deployment, during geobaching. And honestly, geobaching is more expensive. It's more taxing emotionally. It's more taxing physically. There's so many different elements. And I want to make it very clear. Deployments are extremely hard on their own.
Yes.
Geobaching is extremely hard on their own. They both come with their unique set of challenges and positives on both
Right.
sides, but it's so different. So, like, for people to lump in geobaching to deployment, I love when people ask, like, what's the difference? Because it's so
Mm-hmm.
vastly different.
Yeah. And I would not have thought that like that support would be is the idea like they wanted you to move to Mississippi. So since you didn't, it's almost kind of like a you're being penalized in a sense.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, so the military, they recognize geo-bouching, but again, there's nothing for it.
Okay.
So the only branch that offers any additional type of assistance is the Army, and
Okay.
it's like additional housing. But that is a lot of hoops to jump through in and of itself. So like in terms of like overarching military, geo-bouching they would prefer it to not be a thing. They prefer the whole
Mm-hmm.
family to go and be together, which every family geobaching would also really like that.
Yes.
We just can't due to a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it's like, well, you are on your husband's orders or your wife's orders, and they moved, so therefore you technically moved too. So I had to do so much stuff to keep my health care in Florida versus changing it all to Mississippi because that's where like just even stuff like that is
Okay.
like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot to go through when you're living this separated life not by choice because 9 out of 10 times it's not a choice. It's
Right.
a forced choice is what we all say.
And you said before like you knew this was coming up, so you guys already knew like moving was not going to be the in the best interest of your family.
Yeah, so for us, because I have kids from a previous marriage, we have split
Mm-hmm.
custody. And looking at the betterment of my kids, it was okay, I could take the kids either for the school year or for the summer, and then vice versa, they would be with their dad so that we could keep it pretty even. But
Mm-hmm.
would that be the best interest of my children to go through the fighting, to go through the battle, to go through the court and do all of that,
Right.
to then uproot them for 6, 8 months of the year, to then have them be uprooted
Uproot
again
them
to go back
again.
to the other
Right.
parent. And for us, that was never an option. Our kids, were coming first in that specific decision. And their dad's a good dad. So why not let them be with their dad and why take them from that and why take them from me, good chunks
Mm-hmm.
of the year. And so it was just one of those that it was never really an option and we knew it coming into this. So we were able to prepare with like therapy and conversations and really kind of, but not everyone has that. They don't always think that this is going to be a thing for them and it kind of
Right.
comes out of nowhere.
So you were able to prepare a little bit better.
Oh yeah, lots of therapy heading up to it of how do we make this work? What is the best, communication tips or, how do we make it feel like we're still a priority for each other when we're not seeing each other
Mm-hmm.
and we can't physically be the priority, so we have to do it through phone calls or, things like that were really, really helpful for us leading up to this and leading up to him moving.
What was it like for you when he first moved? And like you said, all that support dropped. Even in the preparation, did it hit you like, oh crap, like this is real now and this is really hard.
Yeah, we talk. So, the nonprofit that I run, we have a support group, and we talk in the support group often about those like days and weeks and months leading up to the military service member leaving.
Hmm.
And it is, you can prepare all you want, and it's not going to matter. At the end of the day, it is so sucky
Yeah.
to say the least. And again, it's such a different feeling than a deployment. Like I remember when my husband would go on deployments and those first like week I was like really sad, but I was cleaning my house. I was watching whatever show I wanted. I was doing all these things and I would go on trips in the middle of his deployments and all of these like fun things to keep me occupied. And geo-baching becomes your lifestyle.
Okay.
So solo parenting becomes the norm for the next several years. It's
Oh,
not just the next several
yeah.
months. And just even like traveling, I always forget to like get groceries on my way home from seeing my husband, and then I get home and my kids come and we have no food, and I'm like, crap, like that's part of just being gone so often because I do have the
Hmm.
ability to see him. But those first few days, I remember I was like, okay, this is no big deal. Like it's like he was on a trip. And I don't think it really hit me until we were like a month or two in of
Okay.
this reality because it was like, oh, we've done a few weeks apart. We've done even a few months apart with deployment, but it was just more eye-opening later on to be like, oh, this is long term. Like
Right.
this is not ending anytime soon. He is not coming back anytime soon. Like it was just the reality check, and then that's when it all was like, oh my gosh, I hate this.
Yeah.
I I don't want to do this, but again, just really trying to reframe my brain of like, this is for the kids.
Right.
We're doing this for the kids, and this is short term. If you think about like life in the grand scheme of things, 3 to 5 years, let's say.
Hmm.
Is it long? Definitely.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
long. Lots of milestones, lots of things missed, but then he's home, and like we're like,
Right.
okay, we can do this. We can make it through these 3 to 5 years. And we get to go see him often because it's drivable, so it makes it a
Hmm.
little bit better. So we can all hop in the car whenever we want and drive and go see my husband and hang out with him and then come on back. And not everybody has the ability to do that. Some people are
Right.
literally across the country.
Hmm. And I'm sure that depends on too, like you have your own job. So depending on what your job is, if you financially can't afford, right? Like if your
Mhm.
husband is across the country, I might not be able to afford to jump on a plane and see him frequently.
Yeah, so and that's really how our organization started was
Hmm.
out of frustration of finances because I used to fly every other week. So I would fly to go see
Wow.
my husband. We paid for parking at the like a little offsite parking for the airport, and then I would drive to go see him because you can't fly into his city. It's real
Yeah.
fun. And so I remember I was driving home. It was like one of the first several times I had driven, probably the first 10, 15, and it's a 10.5 hour drive. And I was so mad. And I was like, there's got to be an organization where I can apply for funding so that I can go fly and see my husband. Like, this
Hmm.
is crazy. My kids never see him. I was just really frustrated and upset at how expensive everything was. And then the more I looked, the more I realized there is no
There's
support for
nothing.
geomatching and there is no travel grants that apply for it. And even the ones that are like, scholarships for kids for deployed parents, geobachers don't qualify for that. So we can't even offset those kid costs.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's how Family in Flight started. Honestly, it was out of the finances of like, and it's very much a real thing. There's so many families who are part of our organization who can't see their spouse except for maybe once every 6 months because they
Hmm.
just can't afford
Wow.
it because taking off of work and kids' schedules and
Right.
buying multiple tickets to fly cross country is not cheap.
Right. What was the process of starting Family in Flight?
So, out of frustration, obviously, of just, driving and trying to figure out what I could do. Because again, the more I looked into it, the more I realized there wasn't anything to support families like mine, but there was
Hmm.
a lot of families like mine out there the more I did some digging. And so I decided, I had started my own companies before, but never a nonprofit. So I did some
Okay.
digging on how to start that. I filed all my paperwork for Florida, did all of like the legal stuff, and I hit the ground running. So I do work a full-time job. Monday through Friday, but
Mm-hmm.
I have the beauty of working from home. But every night for probably the first month of working on this, I was up, till 11 or 12 at night, filing paperwork, reaching out to people to see if they wanted to be on my board, coming up with bylaws, like all the nitty-gritty stuff, and then just trying to figure out our mission and vision, right? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's the point in this and how are we going to help? And so we originally started as a travel grant program. And the goal was to provide travel grants to families so that they could see each other. So, like this past Christmas in 2025, we were able to support a family and they got to, so the service member got to fly home and surprise the 6 kids that they
Wow.
have. And it was like I mean, I was like sobbing at the videos that she
Mm-hmm.
sent me. But so that was our goal. That was it. Like we were just going to do travel grants.
Okay.
And then nothing took off. And we had a lot of momentum, we had a lot of traction, but there was no engagement. And we were like, what is going on? Like, we opened up applications, we had a little bit of money. Like, we were like,
So
it's
you're
free
saying people
money.
weren't applying
Yeah.
for the grants?
Nobody
Okay.
was applying. And so we were like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
So almost a year to the day that we started, we did a focus group and we pulled a bunch of our followers and we said, hey, what do you need in this spot in life?
Yeah,
And
that's good.
nobody said travel grants. So we sort of did a 180. I sat there and I could have taken it really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned. Just kind of took it and was like, okay, great. What are we going to do now? And so we have then since launched support groups. So everybody just said that they were lacking community. And that is what I
Okay.
felt too. Like
Yeah, you
it
mentioned
was
that.
it was so hard to have nobody around and nobody understand what I was going through. And even my military friends, they're like, well, why are you doing this again? And
Right.
no hate on them. Like they weren't fully understanding why our family had to do this and why it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't worth fighting, right? And so we swapped and we moved to support groups, which is like our main priority is finding your community within family and flight. And those took off so fast. Those are, the beginning of the month. Every first Wednesday of the month, we have a virtual support group where all of the families who are geo-baching jump on to have a community to be like, I'm struggling. I'm having a really hard time. Or, hey, I get to go see my spouse next week and we all
I'm
get
so
to celebrate
excited.
together,
Yeah.
knowing what that means.
Yes.
And then we also decided to start offering it's part of our community program and it's just gift cards. So part of geobatching is finances are really hard,
Mm-hmm.
but not in the sense of traveling because again, PTO is really, hard to come by. Kids get like there's so many different factors that go into just here's a travel grant, go see your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so we started offering gift cards. So Starbucks gift cards, Target gift cards, Uber Eats gift cards, just to offset, just even if it's a
Just the
$25.
daily things.
But yeah, like you gotta, or like Starbucks, like I send it out and I joke almost every gift card I send. And I'm like, if today wasn't a bad day, either yesterday was or tomorrow's gonna be. So like,
So get
here's,
yourself something.
yeah,
Yeah.
go
I
treat
like
yourself,
that.
because you just never know with like the geobashing life. And
Yeah.
so we really swapped. And so we still offer those grants, right? Like we still have our
Mm-hmm.
applications open. We still have our committee to review. Like all of that is still an option for our followers. But we really honed in on the community aspect, which is really what everyone was just so desperate for. And that is
Yeah.
really where we've really seen growth and, where people are like, hey, we needed this.
Yeah.
And as much as they need it, I also need it. Like I need those
Mm-hmm.
support groups just as much as they do.
Now, is this from word of mouth or are you able to ask the branches to advertise this for you?
So we can ask our individual, like squadrons, platoons, whatever it is you might be part of.
Okay.
And we can talk to our individual bases, in terms of like myself, any of my board members or followers, things like that. But to get on the bases is extremely hard. And a lot of them want, like funding for advertising. And I'm like, nope, every dollar literally goes back into
Goes to
helping
those
our community.
families. Yeah.
So we're not going to spend for advertising. If you see us advertising, it's my own money that has gone into
Into
it
it.
to get the word out. So no, it really is just by word of mouth and social media. I think social media, as much as I might not like it personally, it really has done wonders for family and flight and just sort of
Good.
getting our name out there.
Hmm. What is one of the most difficult parts of the organization or like running this?
All the ideas that I have.
Okay.
I
Like
was just talking
making
to one of,
time for them?
yeah, I was just talking to one of our volunteers earlier today, and she was like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, I have so many notebooks. My notes app on my phone is full of it.
Uh-huh.
I just want to do so many things because this community is such a passion of mine. Not
Yes.
just because I'm in it, but because I feel for these people. Because,
Mm-hmm.
fun fact, out of 40,000 plus military focused and veteran focused nonprofits,
Mm-hmm.
we are the only one that solely focuses on geo-baching. So there
Wow.
are a very select few, limited amount that touch on geo-baching, but they go, "Hey, here's the resource. Go do it yourself."
Go
They
find it on
don't,
your own.
yeah, they don't offer travel grants, community support. They don't do any of that. And so for us, it's like this amazing opportunity and also very overwhelming because I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're the only one, so everybody's coming
mhm.
to you.
Yes,
How
I'm like,
many
the
people
world
would
is our
you
oyster.
say are in your community?
I would say probably a few hundred based off of just our platform. So
Okay.
we're going into year two. So we haven't been around very long at all. Like in
Right.
August of 26, it will be 2 years. So it's really only a year and a half right now. But we've
Mm-hmm.
had such amazing opportunities at speaking at conferences, talking about this. We've had fairly large organizations reach out to us and be like, "Hey, we really like what you guys are doing. Let's figure out a partnership." So
Great.
like it's
Yeah.
one of those that really is taking off because a lot of the military community knows this term of geobaching, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot don't. So a lot of people are unaware they're even in this position. And then when they find out, they're like, "Oh, this is amazing."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been just a wild ride with just all the ideas that I have and want to implement, and it's really hard to like focus and be like, okay, what makes sense right now, and what do
Mm-hmm.
we like? Let's scale this out. It's not a race to the finish. We can,
Right.
slow it down, and it's going to be okay. I'd rather have quality stuff for this
Yes.
community than just slapping things on the wall like spaghetti.
And then it burns out. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. Can you share with us one of your ideas that you're excited about that might not be fully fine-tuned yet, but
Yes.
okay.
So we are almost done with, and it might be done by the time this comes out, an ebook that families can download that is the real raw truth of geobatching. And
Okay.
so
Nice.
I wrote an ebook to just kind of be like, hey, if you're thinking about this, here are some things to talk about it, and if you are already in it, here's some ways to like push through. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's all from my perspective and my journey and my story. But it's very real. And so
Okay.
it's we like I don't sugarcoat in this, but I'm like super excited for this ebook to come out because I've been working on it for like, oh gosh, 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah. What's it called?
It's called The Real Raw Truth of Geobatching.
Okay, I'm writing this down. And you think it will come out when?
I'm hoping in like by the end of January.
Okay.
Um, So we'll see. It's as much as I can get edited, and my brand director can have her editing eyes on it, and my PR
Yeah.
can like we got so many hands that need to touch it before we can officially publish it. But we're in the final phases, and I'm so
Congratulations. That's really exciting.
yeah,
So you're a businesswoman, an author. What else are you gonna do?
I got my work is all
Yeah.
over. All my friends are like, I
All of
cannot.
the things.
I'm like, I can hardly keep up either, but like, let's go.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
Where, go ahead.
it's sorry, it's nice too, like when we do have these support groups, like we have people coming on just in tears with being grateful with finding this organization. And for
Okay.
me,
Yes.
it's not about the recognition of like, oh, look what I did. It's look
Right.
what my team did. Look what the community is doing. And just to be able to help that one or two new people that pop on or the reoccurring people who are there every single month because this is their lifeline. Like I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've cried on these support groups, like, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a crier, and it's just one of those like, wow, it's really making a difference in this geo-batching community.
Yeah. Tell us about a time that either you cried or you were just really happy for a family that you supported.
Oh, I think, like I said, I think I cry almost every support group now. I think it's just like this most recent one in the beginning of January of 26. I remember I was just really down. I had just left a visit with my husband, with my kids. So we had that moment of like feeling like a full family,
Mm-hmm.
and like the normalcy of it. He was still working, I was still working while we were up there, the kids were doing their thing, but just being a normal family. And when we had to leave, I was really I was just so mad that like this was our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I almost canceled the support group because I lead it. And I was just like, I do not want to talk
Not
to
in
these
this
people right
space.
now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a happy person. Like, normally I try to be positive and like real about it, but also like, let's see the good about it. And this time I got on and was like, guys, I'm not feeling it. And all of them were like, neither are we. Here's all of our reasons why. It was all basically the same reasons. And we all were like, wow, this was really great. And so, like,
Yeah.
again, just being able to talk to people who understand and to cry and say, I'm really sad that I had to drive back and leave my husband.
Right.
Like, my kids are really sad that they had to leave their stepdad. Like, it just sucks. And sometimes when you tell even military friends, you're like, yeah, it sucks. And they're like, yeah, but it's going to get better. You only have a year. And they mean well. And I genuinely appreciate when they are like, yeah, but this is the year that he should come home. And this is like all those things. It's
Right.
amazing. But in that moment, I'm like, I just need somebody who understands how much,
Exactly what you're
yeah,
feeling.
what's going on. And so I think, again, just every support group. We have one girl who, poor thing, they were geo-batching because she is in school and he is at a base and she was
Mm-hmm.
finishing her master's program. And in the middle of geobaching, he got deployed. So now
Oh,
she is dealing with that. And when you think of it in that, like when somebody goes through that piece, it's really hard when the service member comes home from deployment because it's not like if my husband were to come home, I would be ready and waiting, because typically they call you 30 minutes ahead of time and you got to like race to the base and get there on time. Like
really?
oh yeah, it's like you don't actually really know when they're coming home. So
Okay.
you're on guard all day because you're like, it'll be between 3 and 6 p.m., but you don't know exactly when.
Okay.
So for her, who lives hours and hours away, she doesn't have that
Um,
luxury. So now she has to figure out where she's going to stay because they don't have a place there anymore because he deployed and they got rid of it. So it's
mm,
all of these different things that nobody thinks about. Everyone's just like, yay, they're coming home for deployment. And she's like, I'm excited, but oh my gosh, like I have so
right.
much, so just having her to be able to have that moment on the support group to like all of us cry and be like, we've been through deployments, we've been through geobatching, all of it just sucks for you right now, and
Yeah.
she's like, what do I do? I'm like, I have no answers for you, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's just things like that where I think I could keep going on story after story with these support groups on how everybody has a little bit of a different story and what it means and
Mm-hmm.
how important it is to have that community.
So thinking about, because even you talked about military families who just have deployment, they don't fully understand geobatching. And then me as just a regular civilian who didn't even know this existed before you came across my feed. What would you say would be supportive? So like, let's say we're friends and you're telling me about this, you don't want to hear like, oh, it'll be okay. It's almost over. Like, how could you support a family? What could you say in that moment? Is it just being quiet and listening to their struggle? Is it asking them, like, can I do something for you? What would be supportive from somebody outside of this, I guess?
I think that like one of the biggest things that I always try to tell people, if you financially have the ability to help, send them a gift card. Like I can't tell you how far that goes for a family in need. Even a
Okay.
$10 gift card. Like here's a $10 Target gift card. That helps alleviate $10 of their finances. And it might not sound a lot to like the normal person
Mm-hmm.
or, somebody who is in the military and, all of these things. But when we're paying, because for military families, we get base housing allowance, but it's only covering for one house. We don't get two of those
Oh,
stipends.
that's true. Yeah.
So we have two mortgages and two electric bills and two water bills and two of everything. So
Right.
$10 might not sound like a lot to the normal person or even the military normal person, but
Mm-hmm.
$10 can go a long way for, or honestly, that $10 can maybe give that parent who is back home with kids or working full time or going to school. We're not spending a ton of money on ourselves because everything is so expensive. And if you send
Right.
me a $10 Starbucks gift card, I now get to go enjoy a lovely little cup of coffee, you know?
Yes.
But then if finances are not something that you can do, is just being there to, like you said, listen and to say, I'm sorry. Like,
Mm.
sorry you're going through this. Don't try to empathize with them or sympathize, empathize.
Either one,
Whichever,
both.
either one. Be sympathetic, I guess, towards the situation, but don't pretend unless you've been there what it's like. Because that's the other thing that a lot of this community is like. Everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry. My spouse went on a work trip for a week and I missed. And
Mm.
I'm like, girl, that is not the same.
Right.
That is so different. You know, like I wish I could go, like my husband was just on a work trip for a week or two. So it's just things like that of like the listening and the apologizing for the situation they're in and understanding without taking away the importance of those feelings because this again wasn't necessarily a choice that we wanted to make, and most
Mm-hmm.
of the time it was a choice that was forced upon us. And so to just also have that understanding that this person didn't choose to live states apart. You know, it's not like they stayed because it was easier by any
Mm.
means. But they chose to stay for either the betterment of their kids, or some of these families have children who have extreme medical needs.
Right.
And when you like one family that was on our support group, she the reason they geo-batched for 2 years was because her son had therapy Monday through Friday, and it was 3 hours a day. And the wait list at the new base was going to be 6 to 8 months for all three therapies.
Wow.
And she said my son could not go six
No.
to eight months without these. So they had to stay where they were or have their child suffer for 6 to 8 months.
So the obvious choice is to
Yeah, like what are you
stay.
gonna do?
Yeah.
You're picking it for your kid. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
there's things like that. There's job requirements for some of these people. There's school pro like there's just so many different things that people don't understand. It's not like we picked this because we enjoy living apart from our spouse. So like just
Right.
being understanding of that piece of it too is that sure it was a choice, but it was not a happy choice.
Yeah. When you get to go see your husband, how many days are you guys together?
So I am one of the lucky few
Mm-hmm.
that I get to see my husband almost every other week because my kids
Okay.
are with their dad every other week. This is not the norm. So I want to make that very clear to anyone
Yes.
listening who's in this position. If you are not seeing your spouse that often, that is very normal to not see them. We just are
Mm-hmm.
drivable, and my work schedule I can finagle things around. So I we try to see each other at least once a month, if not those 2 weeks a month. And when we do get like the ideal time, it's about 10 days a month that we get to see each other.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So 10, 12 days depending on kids and stuff. So yeah, it's not a ton, but when we don't get it, like right now, we're in a bit of a bigger gap and we're both like, ugh, this is dumb.
Yeah.
So we try not to because we've gotten pretty used to that every other week schedule.
What do
But
you feel like you've learned the most about yourself through starting this organization or just figuring it out without him being there?
so growing up, my mom used to always say, "You are the most independent little girl child I ever met," you know? And so growing up, like that's just what I always had in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was as independent as she thought I was.
Yeah.
Um, but it has very much made me a very self-dependent person.
Okay.
It also has taught me to ask for help, which I know those two sound contradicting, but I was not one prior to this to ask for help. I would just do it
Okay.
myself. I would power through. Oh, for example, this is my favorite story to tell. In the beginning of our geo-baching experience, in Florida, we have lots of leaves that fall. It's like like northern fall, but it's like much, much longer time frame where I
Okay.
am. And so our roof gets super flooded with leaves. And so my husband used to always do it. And even when he would come home to visit while we've been geobaching, he would blow the roof off. Well, for some reason, I don't remember the whole situation, but it hadn't been done in a while. And I was like, I'm going to go do it myself. Like, how hard can it be to blow off the roof of leaves? Oh my gosh, I got
Yes,
stuck on
it
my
sounds hard.
roof.
Oh
I
no.
I climbed up my roof and I started blowing everything off. I did not bring my phone. I have an Apple Watch, so like I was still within range. But
Okay.
my leaf blower died. My battery died, and I was like, "Okay, I'll just climb down and grab the next battery and change it and charge and all these things." My ladder moved. My
Oh
ladder
my gosh.
completely shifted, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I
Like one
do?"
of those silly cartoon
Yes!
experiences.
It really was. And I was like, I was like almost like part way down and it moved and I like climbed back up really quick and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I was like, okay, I could jump into my pool and hope for the best that I like don't break anything. I was like looking over one side of my house that's like really vegetative and I was like, do we think it's soft enough if I just like jump off? I'm like, how willing am I to break a bone to
I love
not
all
be
these
embarrassed?
thoughts going through your head.
And so finally, I was like, these are all really dumb because if I do break a bone, I'm the only one to care for my kids. And like, that's a whole different,
Yeah.
set of issues to deal with. And I don't want to go to the ER and all of this. So I ended up calling my neighbor and she didn't pick up, but I saw her husband was home. So I was like, well, I'm going to call him. And he was like, hi, why are you calling me? And I was like, I need your wife
I'm
because I
on the
see that her
roof.
car is home and I need one of you to come save me from my roof. And she took a picture of me as she was walking by as I'm just like perched on my roof like a little bird. And so in that moment, I have learned to ask for help ever since then. Like, if I can't do it, I'm not going to try anymore. I will pay somebody
Right.
to come do it or I will ask a neighbor. Like, I'm not doing it. So I think through this whole journey, it's been self-resilience of like
Hmm.
I'm a lot tougher than I thought I was, but also learning how to ask for help and it's okay to ask for help, especially in
Yes.
this situation. Like I think everybody could use a little bit more of asking for help in life, and I
Hmm.
just think that this really did, teach me that. And no more
Good.
roofs for me.
Yes, please stay off the roof. Now, whenever
Mhm.
I see like ladders and stuff, I'm gonna
Mhm.
think of you and just
Yep.
chuckle.
Happy to help.
Have
Yeah.
you accidentally like stumbled on anybody in person, like in your area, that also is geobaching that you've become friends with, or are you kind of alone in your area?
So it's funny you say that because there was a girl who her husband and my husband were part of the same squadron when they were both in Florida.
Hmm.
And they both moved at the same time. And so when you kind of move, if you're not like really close, eh, you're not quite as like, you're in the vicinity. Husbands are, deployed at the same time. You have spouse events, like you do a lot when you're in the same town, but when you move, it's really hard. So I hadn't really caught up with her, and she posted something like, "Oh my gosh, I think I was 3 years in, 2 years
Hmm.
into this," and she posted something about how her husband was living in a different state and she and her kids were in Florida. And I said, "Excuse me?" I was like, "You are doing the same thing as me?" And she was like, "Wait, you're doing it too?" She was like, "Why are we doing this?" But it was very different reasons, but she was like, "We had to do this for my career.
Uh-huh.
is the only step that we could take. And it doesn't come around often. So, and I was like, girl, I get it, like makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I haven't met anyone, but it was nice to like reconnect with her through this
Yes.
journey and both still being, she's a little farther away now, but both still being in the same vicinity is nice.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like it's not really something like, even when though you were in a community before, is do military families really talk that much about like the changes that are coming up, or does it just happen so quickly? It's like this family's here now, but then they're gone.
So it's a little bit of both sometimes. So the way that it works is like it all is dependent on your branch, your spouse, your base, like there's so many variables.
Hmm.
But for us personally, when he was stationed here in Florida, I was close with the spouses, but not super close because where I am in Florida is like really spread out. where people live. So
Okay.
like you could be part of the same base, but you could live an hour and a half away from each other type of situation from like another spouse.
Oh,
So, but in terms of like people moving, you generally know because everybody gets there at different times. So everybody has a different leave time, but everyone's sort of talking about it. So like my best friend,
okay.
she's a military spouse. We met when she and her now husband were stationed down here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband and my husband were a cycle apart. So he moved first, and they
Okay.
followed. But you get to those people where you're talking about it. And even now, like in Mississippi, like we know a lot of people who are in the same cycle as my husband. So we're all talking about, like,
Okay.
hey, where are you going next? What are you doing next? Are you going to try and stay? Are you going to try and move? Like, all of those things. So for us, it just kind of depends on who we've really connected with.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, you kind of know who's coming up and who's leaving and who's new and things like that within
Okay.
your squadron or within your, immediate group of coworkers.
Now, with family in flight, do you guys look at that information as well, or do you kind of just wait for the families to come to you?
So we don't necessarily look at that data. We look at more so of like different bases. So there's certain bases within each branch that have a higher probability of geo-batching. And those are
Okay.
the ones that we target. So we look at that data. So like Virginia has a really, really high population of geo-batching.
Do you know the
There's
reason behind that?
It's dependent on the job.
Okay.
So it really, like, Virginia has a very quick, from my understanding, we've never been there, but Virginia has a quick turnover. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be like a year or two, and families are like, well, we're not going to move for that. We're not going to uproot our kids halfway through the school when you're coming
Right.
back, all of these things. And then a lot of times you go into it thinking that, and then it extends. And so now you're doing 2 to 3 years of this, and you're like, shoot, I should have moved. I should.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just the job type in Virginia, but it's really great for your career advancement. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people will choose to do that. There's a school also in Virginia. So that's like a year and a half long program. And it's super intense. So you barely ever see your spouse anyway.
Wow.
So a lot of the time, the families will say, you go do the school by yourself. This way you can study, you can
Can
focus,
focus.
you can
Yeah.
do all of the things, but it's a year and a half if they're on time. Um, so there's that with Virginia. There's another place in Alabama that has a really high population of it, and that's because it's a school base as well, and that's a 2 year program. So we kind of look at things like that and then really try to focus on those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously anyone can come to us. Like we have families from Idaho who join our support group, North Carolina, Georgia, so we kind of have everybody sprinkled all throughout the United States at this point, honestly.
Okay.
hmm
Now, so if someone's listening, they're like, "Hey, I geobatch. How would they find your organization?" And then other people who are like, "This is awesome. I want to support it." Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so across every platform, so Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, website, everything is Family in Flight.
Okay.
So if you search us, we should be one of the first that pop up. But you can also search, Family in Flight geo-baching, and you'll see a bunch of our posts, and it's a very quick and easy way to find us if you are in this position and you want, to see other interviews of people who are also going through this, or you want to hear stories, success stories, or have questions. I always like to say that when you email us, which is at hello@familyinflight.org, you're actually talking to me directly. So
Oh,
I don't source that out to any of my team or any of our volunteers. That does come to me. So if you have questions or you need to talk about something and you're not comfortable online, feel free to email us, and I am more than happy to chat through all of this with you. And then if you want to support, we would love volunteers, even if you're not military. We need things like social media, like grant help or, support group help. So you don't have to be military to support us. We also are always open for donations. And like I said earlier, like literally every dollar goes back into supporting these families, whether it's gift
yeah.
cards, whether it's travel, whatever it might be. the dollar does go back. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can find more information on our website, which is just familyinflight.org, and everything is on there. And again, if you email me, it is going directly to me.
Nice. I know this might seem like a random question, but like, you work with not you specifically, but like food pantries and things like that. And they're like, oh, Christmas is a really heavy time of year where we have a lot of need or things like that. Do you have that within your organization where you're like, hey, if you're thinking about donating, really, send your gift cards or your financial support at this time of year? Or is it just like anytime, always? It's pretty consistent.
It's pretty consistent because we have people who apply for random things. Like we had somebody reach out to us. It was like sometime in the summer. I can't really remember, but her husband was graduating and she and her daughter wanted to go, but the drive was going to be too long and hotel and car, like there was just so many factors.
Right.
So, that was the summer one. We do always have an increase at Christmas time just because of the holidays. Everybody wants their spouse home
Mm-hmm.
for the holidays. But, we also had an application last February that was like, hey, we just want to go on a trip or we're planning a trip so that our kids can see their dad, so it's
Right.
really pretty consistent and full year round at that point.
Okay. Great to know. So the podcast is all about listening to other people, different unique situations and experiences. And as you share, this is not an experience that most people would have or even knew about before. So now that we've heard your story, a little bit about your organization, what would you want us to take away from what you said? And how can we use this to help us rise?
Yeah, I think just honestly being understanding and like just in general in life. I feel like us as a society has really gotten away from understanding each other and truly listening. And I think that geo-batching or not, everyone can really take that away, but especially in the geo-batching community, try to understand why this person had to make this choice. Ask the questions, talk to them about it, listen to them, really try to understand what is going on. And I think if we can start doing that, it will start adding more compassion and more grace into our conversations and our daily life. And we'll be able to move forward as a community, whether that's the geobaching community or the greater community, in a
Yes.
much better spot.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I really love
Of
that. And I
course.
really
Yeah.
appreciate your time, especially hearing how busy you are. I'm sure you have like a million emails to get to and things like that. And
No, I love it. I love being able to share this community with people because, it is such a passion. So I appreciate you
yes, I
reaching
have
out to
already,
me.
yeah, I've actually, when I saw that, and like I said, I read about what you do and I already went on your Instagram and looked at it. It's really amazing the things that you're doing and helping. And I know you say like you don't take the credit yourself, which is, I think is awesome that you're not like, look at me. But I mean, I hope you do realize that you are starting something wonderful and you didn't take your own, um, you meet so many different people and sometimes we take our pain and we kind of just sit with it. But I always find it really inspiring. And I know the listeners do too. When you take that and you say, how can I help other people who are in the same situation? So I'm glad that you are one of those people to do that. I know your community appreciates you, even on the bad days.
Yes.
It's
Thanks.
good
I
to
know.
kind of sit with someone who understands. So I
It
admire
really is.
you for what
Thank
you're doing
you.
and your whole team and everybody. And I mean, always thanks for the service for your husband, but also families give up so much. And
Mhm.
that's easy to forget, especially I feel like here in America where we have so many privileges and things like that. We don't always see and understand what's going on around us. I will be very honest. It might sound a little ignorant, but I don't know all the things that are happening in the
Mhm.
military as far as like requirements and jobs and things
Yeah.
like that. So I am always in awe of the sacrifices people make for others. So I want to thank you as well
Thank
and your
you.
children too.
All the crazy children that we have.
And the dogs.
And the dogs. I can't forget them. Well, I appreciate you having me on. This has been wonderful and always happy to share our side of things on the military world because I also was like you and didn't understand it until I was in it.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably even harder for me because you're like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what I signed up for. Good to
Yeah.
know. You're like, I guess I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah. I will say too, that I did just see today that somebody
Hmm.
said it was a military video, and somebody said, I did not make the choice to be a military spouse, but I did make the choice to marry my husband, and it was
Yeah.
his choice, and I love him. And I thought that that was so beautifully said that
Yes.
we didn't make the choice to be a military family, but we did choose each other, and he was already
Hmm.
military. So therefore, by default, sure, you can say we chose military, but we really chose the individual, and I think that
Yeah.
it was very beautiful.
I really enjoyed this conversation with Chelsea. She was so fun and easy to talk to. Doing this recording was the very first time we ever spoke, but it felt like catching up with an old friend. If you or someone you know is geo-baching, I highly recommend reaching out to Chelsea and being part of her community. She has built a beautiful thing, and she is absolutely the kind of person you want in your corner. Check out the show notes if you want to reach out or to support her organization. And guess what else is in the show notes? A link to Chelsea's ebook. It is out. It's called Geo-baching: The Raw Truth No One Tells You, a survival guide for military spouses and families navigating life apart. Again, that link will be in the show notes. And to continue with the updates, I did just talk to Chelsea, and as of March 2026, she still does know that her husband's coming home this year, but still no word on exactly when. So, Chelsea, we are definitely thinking of you, and we cannot wait for him to get the news and to be home with you guys again. This week, Chelsea encouraged us to be understanding, compassionate, and to show grace. If we're honest with ourselves, that is something we can all always be working on. I love that Chelsea's focus is around community because sometimes being understanding, compassionate, and showing grace to those closest to us is actually harder than offering it to a stranger. We have different expectations for those that we know, so we often forget to slow down and to just listen and to ask what that other person needs. So, I'm inviting you to be mindful of that in your own circle this week and see how you can rise. I've loved spending this time with you, but that is all for today. So, as you move through the rest of your day and week, I hope you take a moment to listen a little louder to yourself, to the people you love, and to the things that connect us in ways we sometimes forget to notice. I'll meet you back here next time. See ya, bye.